Good morning, Ms. Yang. Thank you for coming to assist us. We have seen your report, which I think you have in front of you.
Yes, I do.
Yes. What I'd like to do this morning is to just take you through portions of your report and ask you to clarify and elaborate on some parts of it which would be helpful to the committee.
Sure.
Right? Now, your report is largely a case study on the experience of Indonesia. Would that be correct?
That's right.
That's where your area of expertise would lie.
That's right.
Yes. Now, if you look at paragraph 2 of your report, you have outlined the experience in Indonesia during the recent elections, and you've explained that in particular racial, religious, ethnic, social, or cultural groups have taken to the media or online to promote their own interest using fake news factories.
Yes.
Can you elaborate upon that, please?
Okay. The Saracen cyber team operates its own website,
Yes.
as well as operate through Facebook. And I think they started out in the year 2014 during the hotly contested presidential election between the current president, Joko Hui, as well as his very strong rival, Prabowo Subianto.
Yes.
Yes, and what the founder of the Saracen, Jasriyadi, said is that he began as a supporter to Prabowo. And so what he did was he set up this website, and he specialized in hacking social media accounts. So what he can do is that he would take over rivals' social media accounts and then put up some content that are denigrating to racial and religion as a way of getting back, as a way of showing displeasure at their political affiliation. And in time, what he did was he sold some of these fake accounts for some in order, and he grew to a point where he didn't know what people who bought from him wants to do with the fake account or even in some cases the real accounts anymore. So from investigation, it seems that some of these accounts are being used to actually portray, for example, Joko Hui as having a certain ethnic lineage, or maybe being affiliated with some political affiliations. So
All of which are untruths.
Yes, all of which are untruths,
And
he has
also,
taken pains to.
yes, and also untruths organized along racial, cultural, religious lines.
Yes, that's right.
Which are designed to elicit emotive feelings of the people who then read these untruths.
Yes, that's right.
And ultimately designed to undermine the credibility of certain political figures.
Yes, that's right.
Right, thank you. If you go over the page to page 2, you mention at paragraph 5 and 6, I think you also have the American experience,
Yes.
paragraph 5.
That's right.
And at paragraph 6, you then bring it back to Indonesia.
Yes.
The Saracen cyber team was the entity behind the fake news factory that you just mentioned earlier, correct?
Yes, that's right. But it's actually a very complex landscape. For example, in the recent weeks, the Indonesian police cybercrime unit has discovered a WhatsApp-based syndicate, the Muslim Cyber Army. So, they are being operated. The nerve center is actually some WhatsApp group, and of course they have got different. They operate through Facebook as well, and they are very strong on Twitter as well. So, there's actually a very complex landscape, and Saracen is only one among those. In fact, the Indonesian police estimated that there are more, but due to operational reasons, these are probably not being released to the media at this point.
Yes, I think you mentioned the recent discovery of the WhatsApp group.
Yes.
I think it's February 2018 that was discovered, right? Very recently. And you also mentioned elsewhere in your report that to pick up on your last point, that the government in Indonesia has picked up some 600,000 odd fake sites. That was what you referred to.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
These are not actually being released to the news. So the exact details I'm not very clear. But what I understand is that if you go even to currently Facebook, you would see a lot of affiliated accounts that has to do with Muslim Cyber Army, and that in fact joining them is not exactly difficult as well, because the verification procedures are quite I must say slack probably. Yeah, so
that will be joining on the Facebook platform.
Yes, that's right.
Or any other social media platform.
And Twitter as well.
And Twitter as well.
Yes, and some of them do operate, like Saracen, their own actual website that's open to anyone with internet access.
Right. So these purveyors then go onto the social media site. People join it, and then what happens?
A lot of them, well, they would post or share articles that probably interest them in the, for example, their news. Some of them are probably shared from non-mainstream websites. So in the Indonesian media landscape, a lot of the websites are being run by partisan, being run by people with different ideological leanings. And of course, what they would do is to share articles that confirm their preconceived biases. Yeah, and then you would see people, of course, commenting and then resharing, retweeting some of these content.
Would this include false information?
Some of them, yes.
Yes. And again, organized along religious, cultural, racial lines.
Yes, but some of them are actually strictly political as well.
Right. But with the objective to either undermine or create an impression or certain impression of the political figure.
Yes, that's right.
Right. At paragraph 7, still at page 2 of your report, you outline 3 ways in which such information or such a phenomenon can be dealt with. Just very quickly, you say that disinformation campaigns is a national security issue. Just pausing there for a minute, that's what you've been speaking about previously, right? National security issues would include questions of information undermining political figures, yes, or where you purvey information which tries to divide people on social, political, religious, or cultural fault lines.
Yes,
would that be right?
Yes, that's right.
And for that, you say that they deserve the full attention in terms of national security.
Sorry, maybe to clarify this point, when I refer to the disinformation campaigns, because I think in the previous paragraph, I believe it's,
Paragraph 6, politically motivated domestic misinformation campaigns.
Yes, that's right. Because I think you have referred to an RSIS report where we look at a full spectrum of how fake news can be categorized. And right, when I speak about disinformation campaign in this particular sentence, I was referring more of those that originated from overseas. Yeah, so this is not exactly referring to a more domestic sort of a situation. But of course, I understand as what you are saying that whatever takes place domestically that touch on a racial and religious viewpoint can sometimes become a national security issue as well.
It would have the same level of impact.
Yes, that's right.
And would therefore have to be dealt with in the same way.
Yes, that's right.
And it's also because, the internet, as being what it is trans-jurisdictional, trans-geographic. It's possible that something originating overseas can be shared easily domestically as well.
Yes, you are right.
Right. So the second category, you talk about dissemination of misinformation for domestic political agenda. I think you draw that slight distinction there. And here you say that they should be liable through existing legal provisions.
Yes, that's
Would you just elaborate on that briefly?
Yes, I'm actually drawing on the case study of Indonesia, where they have tried to deal with it through existing criminal law, as well as issuing a circular to the police as to identify what hate speech entails in their operational domains. So I think there are. I'm not a legal expert by any means, but this is what I surmise, that there are possibilities as well of dealing with these sort of issues through existing legal legislation.
The Indonesian existing legal landscape or provisions have been recently supplemented by a series of provisions. I think you refer to that in your subsequent parts of your report as well.
Yes, that's right.
Are you familiar with those?
No, sorry.
So, but what you're referring to here would be dealing with the issue using existing legislation, meaning with the enhanced and additional legislation that has been recently passed.
Oh, you mean in the Indonesian
in Indonesia,
case studies?
yes.
Yes,
It
I
would
think
include
so.
those.
Yes, that's right.
And you then have a third category where you say addressing two lines from the bottom, addressing fake news that citizens themselves share without political agenda, on the other hand, requires responses focusing on media and digital literacy. So what I gather from your paragraph here is a couple of things. First, I think one has to appreciate that there are different types of false information at different levels. And one has to have a differentiated response as well. Would you agree?
Right. Yes.
And depending on the nature of the threat or the level of the disinformation, you have to have the appropriate response to deal with the threat to society. Would that be correct?
Yes, that's right.
And you would also need to have a differentiation in terms of the types of tools you have to deal with these. And one of the earlier witnesses said there's no silver bullet to this. You would agree?
I agree.
That would mean that you need a suite of remedies available to deal with each different level or different type of differentiated online information, which is false.
I agree, yes.
Thank you. I'd like to quickly take you to the next section of your report where you deal with online hoax campaigns in Indonesia. I think you've touched on that already earlier, so I won't spend too much time on it. But what I see from the next couple of paragraphs is your detailing of the experience in Indonesia, where several political campaigns have been severely undermined by false information, which is designed to focus on the background falsely of a political party or individual. Yes. Would you just briefly elaborate on that, in particular at paragraph 10, where you deal with sectarian and racist narratives that play on ethnic and religious sentiments?
Okay. As some of us are aware of, what happened? I think at this point I'll probably come back to where it all started, which has to do with Ahok's speech at the Thousand Islands that year. That there is the incident that catalyzed it all. And what happened was that it is largely argued that an edited, which is a doctored video, circulated around that brought this yes. mass mobilization against him, mobilization of opinion against him, and at this point, probably I'll draw us back to the fact that what happened is that Ahok is not so much elected as a deputy, as the governor as he was. He inherited the position when Jokowi ran for public office, and so therefore he took over the position. And what happened at that speech was that I think there were news that says that residents there is actually quite calm about it after his speech, and they were actually, some of them even laughed at his comment, being the very frank and straightforward guy that he is. But what happened was this guy Buniyani, so he's a academic, a freelance academic, took a portion of their speech, and he didn't so much doctor it as to like cut out using existing video technique, and then post it on his Facebook like any of us would. And what went wrong was his what happened was his caption, which was very leading, and he said that is this blaspheming Islam, and in the transcript below he omitted one word that actually changed the entire meaning, and I think being someone with followers, that probably went viral. Yeah. So Ahok's enemies seized upon this this opening, this slip of a tongue, and there was a growing mobilization that culminated in the I think in the protest movement of 2nd of December 2016. Yeah, and I think alongside all these development were in the online sphere, there has been a lot of the online became a battleground whereby different factions is either thinking that then I think it gained momentum that for example the narrative that if you support Ahok, you don't support Islam. So the narrative became a whole lot more sharp. I mean, the divide became a whole lot more sharp.
And religiously divided as well.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's the intention of the people who put this information out.
I'm not entirely clear. All I know is that Buniyani was originally a supporter of Ahok, who was probably aggrieved at something he said and did and changed his political affiliation.
But ultimately, as you say at paragraph 10, that had the effect of dissuading voters from voting in a particular way.
Okay, probably I'll clarify this statement just a little. I do not have I don't think there's any study that actually talk about the actual causation, but which is why I use the term could have an effect. Yes.
So the product of what has happened, what you're saying is it could have had an effect.
Could.
Objectively looking at it.
Yes, because because rumors and all and also social conflicts tend to accompany tumultuous events like election. So therefore, yeah.
If you go forward a few pages to page 5, looking at paragraph 19, you then make the point that bottom of paragraph 19, the use of social network sites, and you said Facebook is the most commonly used platform to spread hoaxes, followed by microblogging site Twitter and photo sharing app Instagram. The role of closed chat groups in disseminating false content is an important yet underexplored one. So 2 points. One, on the open sites, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You say that they are the most commonly used social platforms to spread hoaxes. Can you elaborate on that?
I must clarify that this is actually pertaining specifically to the case study of Indonesia.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So I think this apply. What happens in Indonesia currently is that I think I elaborated as well in the paper that due to the partisanship of mainstream, even mainstream newspapers, I think a lot of them are not exactly sure about which news sites to trust. But also, it has to do with I think the architecture as well as the level of social structure of Indonesia, where some people probably don't have the money to apply for broadband. But what they do is that they do have smartphones, and a lot of them they may not actually use anything out of it, but probably only for accessing email and Facebook. And this is where literacy comes in. Like, do they know what is being shared on their social network is the correct thing or not? Yes.
So it's a step that is. I mean, I understand your point about it being a study of Indonesia. So, but of course, it's a step taken by people who want to convey information, knowing what the target audience is likely to do and their social media habits.
Yes.
Would that be right?
Yes.
On media literacy, of course, it's important. I think it's. We have heard witnesses say it's one of the suite of remedies or countermeasures that we must have. But would you agree that media literacy will take some time to make sure that everyone levels up to the same level of discernment or information or inoculation against false information?
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
It should be done as a long-term measure.
Yes, I mean, it must be there, but it's not something that can take place overnight and certainly can't immediately eradicate something that is posted online which is false and which has racial or cultural divides or overtones. Would you agree?
I agree.
I'd like to move you down a few pages to paragraph 21 and 22, where you talk about online influencers. And you use two interesting categories, the buzzers and the micro-celebrities. And at paragraph 22, you then say that these buzzers and micro-celebrities were used in the 2017 Jakarta elections, and they tend to promote messages that benefit their paymasters rather than factually accurate information. Can you just explain that in some detail?
Yes, I think the rise of Jokowi, the electoral campaigning of Jokowi in 2014 was actually followed by a lot of so-called grassroots volunteers. Yeah, and I think one of them, the one that's most prominent in giving Jokowi like the airtime is a group called Just Math. But of course, there's another group by Ahok as well, Teman Ahok, the Friends of Ahok, and what these groups do is that they are volunteers, and of course I do not know. The details about buzzers is actually very fuzzy. But I believe that this this can form part of the volunteer grassroots, or on one hand, but also on the other, I do not have any info on whether this could be something paid as well.
From what you say here, these buzzers are people who have large number of followers.
Yes.
Who then are asked to, whether paid or otherwise, tweet or repost in a certain fashion.
Yes, that's right. At a certain timing.
At a certain timing, and that's based on what they are, either people who pay them or people who direct them will tell them.
I believe that this is usually arranged by the campaign managers.
Right, and that's obviously designed to influence a particular outcome.
Yes, that's right.
You go on at 23 to then say that the Indonesian Press Council has reported more than 40,000 websites claiming to be news sites, but did not register their domain with the council. And as a result, standards of journalism and postings have come down. What is this registration with the council? Can you just explain that?
Yes, I think this is a body that actually oversees all registered and unregistered news site. And what they do is because of the issue to do with fake news, they recently had to introduce new measures. So, for example, those people, those sites that are found to be credible, they are found to consistently able to churn out accurate articles. They decided to award a barcode as a way of assuring people who are concerned about the kind of articles that are being churned out. So if you go to their websites, you're actually able to go through page by page what some of these verified sites might be.
So it's a system of registration and verification.
Yes, that's right.
The idea being to control, to make sure that these sites don't or are not seen to be purveying false information, yes, or are trustworthy.
Yes, that's right.
Now we go on to the measures that you outlined. Just very briefly, you've set this out in some detail, so I'll take you through it quickly. 4.1, paragraph 24, you talk about an agency that's set up which reports directly to the Indonesian president. That will be one measure, obviously, because it polices the online information and online hoax campaigns.
Yes, that's right.
Right. And then at paragraph 25, you deal with also the National Police Cybercrime Unit, which has been set up since February 2017. That's another governmental measure that has been used to combat online hoax campaigns, right?
Yes, that's right.
26 deals with, you set out some legislation, some relatively new, in 2016, in particular the Electronic Information and Transactions Act, which govern norms and behavior online.
Yes,
that
right.
would give the government some powers to deal with online information that is false.
Yes, that's right.
27, we have the General Election Commission, KPU, which has a monitoring body, and they then also use the National Police to monitor regional elections for hoax campaigns. So another oversight body which looks at information online,
yes,
and again would be empowered to take action should the information be false.
Yes.
Would that be right?
Yes, that's right.
You also mentioned that there is a requirement that for an election campaign that only one account from each social media platform be used. Was that effective?
This is a relatively new measure. I think it's only implemented in January or February this year. So given that the simultaneous regional election will take place only in June. We have yet to see the efficacy.
Okay, right. Paragraph 37, you talk about the Streisand effect. And the Streisand effect is basically if you remove something, it causes more interest in that something that's been removed. Right. So
that's right.
The Streisand effect applies to anything that was there and then subsequently removed, either by compulsion or by choice.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
So regardless of whether it is something that has been removed by force of law, through intervention, or by a voluntary removal, that would also have the same Streisand effect.
Yes, that's right.
Right. So if you take that into account as being one reason why perhaps false information should not be removed, then the counter to that would be then we just don't remove any false information, which can't be right.
No, sorry, maybe I'll clarify this
Yes.
point. I do not mean that false information should not be removed. I think
Yes.
it definitely will be removed. The problem is even its removal, I mean, given the fact that how information travels online, which is probably faster than any removal process could take, so people might have a chance to do some countermeasure, for example, screenshot, or I don't know, or they might have a chance of saving it somewhere. So that which is why by the time this is removed, it would be too slow to capture the effect that's already.
I see, I understand.
Yes.
So your point is that there must be an ability to remove it, much like what the Indonesian government has done through some legislation and some bodies that we've seen.
I think at some level, a removal is necessary.
Right.
Yes.
And that must also be coupled by, I suppose, active and speedy correction of the information.
Yes.
At the same time.
Yes.
And then I think what you're also suggesting that in the long term, there should also be an upscaling of media literacy so that the general public can be more discerning.
Yes, that's right.
That's really your point about what countermeasures in the broad framework should look like.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Yang. I have no other questions, Chairman.
Thank you.